Welcome into Sports Memo's betting podcast, college football, every game on the board with Joe Raineri. First guest up, Joe, welcome to the pod. How are you?
Oh, what's going on, man? Exciting time of year. We're getting closer to that point where we start arguing that we need 8 teams instead of, 4 teams in a college playoff. That group of people getting ready to meet soon.
Absolutely. That is always an interesting time, but we do have midweek football here, which we can start off. We're taping this first segment on Wednesday with Joe Raineri. Then we'll have a slew of guests to finish the rest of the card on Saturday. But first up, Joe, here in the Sun Belt, some Fun Belt Wednesday night action. Battle for the belt. South Alabama at Troy. Looks like the Troy Trojans minus 17 at home, 55.5 being the total. We got USA, we got Troy. You interested in getting involved?
Oh, yeah, this is, thank goodness the Yankee game was canceled, so I can spend all my time watching South Alabama and Troy tonight. But the truth is there is an actual edge to be had in this game. I know there was some concern, obviously, with Troy's quarterback, whether or not he was going to be playing. He was a little banged up. Last game, he's been a little banged up, actually, the last couple of weeks. You got 2 teams who play no defense. Only you've got one team that averages 30 points a game in Troy. The other team averages about 17 or 18 points a game in South Alabama. I do think midweek, short week, banged up quarterback here. I'm looking at the total in this game. And usually when we go back, the numbers tell us that the unders have been pretty profitable in these situations when you get a couple of Sun Belt teams on a Wednesday night, especially a Sun Belt team with a banged up quarterback who will probably go a little bit more conservative than usual here tonight. So I like the under in this game.
Like in the under 55.5 is what we're seeing right now as we're recording. And I'll tell you, Joe brings up the fact of Caleb Barker, I believe is his name. He's very good. He can really spin it, Joe, if you watch him play. And the backup, very inexperienced in himself, going up against the South Alabama team, which isn't very good by any means, Joe. But I will say this, against Sunbelt competition, some of the better Sunbelt competition, they have held their opponents under 30 points. So,
don't forget, Nebraska needed 2 defensive touchdowns to beat them there early on in the year, too. So they can play some defense if they need to.
Yeah. I like where you're going with that. Leaning towards the under of 55.5 in the battle for the belt on Wednesday night college football action. Staying in the Sun Belt Thursday night here, Joe, 305, 306. ULL, Louisiana Lafayette at Arkansas State. We're seeing the market move here on the Ragin' Cajuns, open 5.5. Now we're seeing as high as 7 out there in the marketplace. High total here, Joe, 68.5.
Yeah, it's listen, the Cajuns are disappointing loss last week against App State there. A lot less scoring than a lot of us thought it was going to be, obviously. But these are 2 teams. They've got similar stats. They match up very close here. But I do think the Ragin' Cajuns are the better defense. They're also a hell of a lot better on the offensive side of the ball. They both can put up some points here. Again, another one of these games that I would look to the over in this. 5-2 in the Cajuns' last 7 games overall. Also 12-5 in the Red Wolves' last 17 games. To me, this is going to be hold on to your hat. We didn't get it with App State, but I do think we're going to get it here with Arkansas State and Lafayette.
All right, Joe, we got Pac-12 action on Thursday night as well. Nice doubleheader Thursday night lights. We got 52 being the total between UCLA and Stanford, 6.5 or 7. Important one to be shopping around here. That's what the Cardinals laying on the farm.
Yeah, and listen, UCLA's had a couple of weeks here to wallow in their own misery, losing to Oregon State there, and another one where they were favored. This game to me is all about 2 quarterbacks, 2 injured starting quarterbacks for both of these teams here. And we've seen Stanford, they just played really, really well, pulling off a big win at home. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson didn't play in that Oregon State game. I don't know if he's going to play again for Chip Kelly here. KJ Costello, still questionable. Backup still questionable. This, to me, has got underwritten all over it. Do not expect. I trust Stanford's defense. And while UCLA doesn't play any defense, they're not going to have a lot of weapons, Stanford, especially in the quarterback spot, to be able to take advantage of it. So I'm looking at the under in this one as well.
Joe, let's head to the Friday night's card, man. This is a loaded one. We got
Packed.
4 games on Friday night in college football, something that college football fans and bettors will love. Starting off, one that I'm very interested in here. Conference USA matchup. We got the Marshall Thundering Herd at FAU here, 59.5 or 60 being the total. This is a short week for Marshall here, Joe. I think they're a little bit up against it, going up against an FAU team that I think is underrated in the betting markets. I like the Owls here. They're laying 5.5 at home in Boca Raton. I'm riding this lane train. How do you feel about Marshall and FAU?
Right in my backyard over here in South Florida, and I'm with you. FAU started off the season, a couple of rough games, UCF and, of course, Ohio State, but I think there was a method behind that madness, and they're actually better off for it. They've played really well. They've gone 4 games in a row now in the W column. They beat Middle Tennessee State, 28-13, a team that Marshall had lost to a couple of weeks ago. I'm with you. They're 5-1 against the number in their last 6 conference games. Lane Kiffin's got this team rolling. They're starting to play some defense. And by the way, Thunder and Herd, 1-8 against the number in their last 9 games after allowing at least 20 points or more. I'm worried about this Marshall spot right now. I think Boca Raton's going to be rocking. FAU is definitely the team to back here. Lay the points.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Owls. And you said it, Joe. I mean, in terms of setting it up for ATS success, there after 2 weeks, there wasn't a better, quality of losses than FAU. You said it. Ohio State and UCF, they lost both of them handily, and then they come back against like competition and really make some money, winning straight up and ATS. So I'm going to keep riding this FAU train for a little while here. Let's head to the ACC. Pitt at Syracuse. We got the Pitt Panthers here. Good defense, man. Laying 3.5 on the road, 51.5 the total.
Yeah, Pitt and Syracuse. Let's see. Syracuse, we were able to fade them last week, and that worked out against North Carolina State. It's not a good team this year, guys. They've got offensive line issues. They've got defensive issues. They rank in the bottom, really, on both statistical categories there. They can't protect the quarterback. They can't run the ball. It's just like, what are you doing, Syracuse? And you're looking at a Pittsburgh team that does all of those things really well on defense, like take the ball away. And it's going to be a very hard game for Syracuse to generate any offense, any points. I do think Pittsburgh, we've seen them this year a couple of times, go into places and get victories. And I think they're going to get one here, too, in the Carrier Dome against Syracuse. The defense, to me, is what's going to win this game for Pittsburgh and ball control. I think they'll have it. I think Syracuse won't. Lay the points. Give me Pittsburgh on the road.
Nice. Like in Pitt, I'm with you there. 3 in the hook on the road. Ohio State at Northwestern in the Big Ten. Big Ten Friday night lights action. Don't see that each and every day, obviously, because it is on Friday. But we got Ohio State laying 28-49 the total here, Joe. And Evansville, it can be a tough place to play at times, but this is a tough offense to step in front of, Joe. They can make 28 look small. This isn't a game I've touched of yet, but what are you thinking here with Northwestern and Ohio State?
Listen, they've had a good run, tough team. They've done some really good things there with the program, but listen, guys, Ohio State is, forget about what they saw in Wisconsin or anybody else that they played. Holding Wisconsin to 24 points, that's not Ohio State. Ohio State has put up at least 34 points or more in every game that they played, guys. They just don't have the horse. They don't have the offense to be able to compete, and they certainly are not going to compete there defensively against Justin Fields and company there. To me, this is blowout. I'm shocked it's under 50 points if it still is. And if it is, give me the over here. I definitely expect Ohio State to put up their fair share of those points, and we won't need a lot from Northwestern. Probably, a backdoor type of situation there with an empty netter at the very end. I'm going over.
And Joe, does not that it affects the total too much, although it could offensively, does Ohio State spot-wise, they have the Badgers on deck, does that kind of change your thinking with betting on Ohio State? Go ahead.
I think it's a machine. I mean, Ohio State is a machine, and they're going to approach this like they do a lot of things. It's a great tune-up. It's a great warm-up. They are, at this point in the season, everything that we've seen from them. I think the letdown with FAU was about as close as we were going to get. Everything else has been pedal to the metal. I don't see them letting up on, let's face it, the Wildcats team, it's a conference game here. They are not going to mess around, I don't think, at all. They're not going to look ahead. They've done a pretty good job of taking care of business, and I think they'll do it here as well.
Good stuff, Joe. We got one more here on Friday night, the nightcap, so to speak, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific kick here. UNLV, the Running Rebels on the road at Fresno State. 52.5 now, the total. And Joe, this UNLV team's been an under the last couple weeks, under betting team, and the market's starting to catch up. Open 55, now down to 52.5, 16.5. The Bulldogs laying in the Valley.
It's interesting because I think they've kind of been a little bit overvalued. These are two teams that have decent offenses. They've got not great defenses. They're both kind of similar in that standpoint, but I do think the offenses are going to win out in this game. Both teams are giving up over 30 points per game, and it feels like this is going to see a lot of scoring this game between these two. The over is 13-3, and the Bulldogs last 16 after allowing 40 or more in their last game, which they have done here. So I like the over in this game. I think UNLV and Fresno State will spend a lot less time stopping people and a lot more time offensively ending up in the end zone. So expect a lot of points in this game.
Joe, let's move to Saturday's card. We got 3 ACC games to start off here. Duke at Virginia. Man, this is a fascinating handicap, one I'm interested in. 45 being the total. We're seeing 3.5 Virginia laying to the Dukies in Charlottesville.
All right, so this is an important lesson for those of you that might be new to sports betting. Last week, I lost my ass on Virginia. It was my 5% play, and I went big on them to take down the University of Miami on a Friday night. And, of course, Miami's right in my backyard. That's where I am here. And they played one of the worst games that I have seen them play all year. Virginia was the better team. I still believe is the better team. But, you know, you can't keep going inside the red zone and not scoring touchdowns. I love Bryce Perkins. I think he's a great quarterback. They had some issues there offensively. But let's face it, this defense of Duke is not what they had here against Miami. So while Duke is coming off a bye, which give David Cutcliffe an extra week to prepare, of course, that's always dangerous. But I do like Virginia to bounce back here, have a solid home performance. They're 3-0, basically, in their own building here. I like that. I think they have enough. Certainly defensively, I think they shore some things up offensively, especially at home. I expect Virginia to be able to handle Duke here in this spot.
And Joe, just your opinion real quick, Mendenhall versus Cutcliffe. Who would you give the coaching advantage to, if any at all?
Two very good guys. I mean, let's face it. These it's the future. What can you say about Cutcliffe? I mean, the guy is proven time and time again. Here he's at a program where he shouldn't win nearly as much as he does. No. But let us not forget, these two met last year. Virginia, 28-14 on the road last year. They had a dude, what was his quarterback? Yeah, I think he plays for Sunday. Yeah, Daniel Jones was the quarterback last year, and they still managed to be able to win this game. So I do like Virginia in this game. I love both coaches. I love the direction of both programs. But Bryce Perkins right now, he's the guy to be able to back here at home.
He's Joe Raineri. Find his packages at sportsmemo.com. He's, last 7 days, Joe, up 25% ROI on a hot streak here, 73%. That's 11-4 his last 15 plays. Also 58% in college football year to date, just under 60% there. Very impressive on the college football gridiron. Get his packages, especially we got a special here for his 7-day, 1 week package, all access, every play and every sport for just $69. That's less than $10 a day. 7-day all access. Coupon code Joe69, Joe69 at checkout. It's his first name and his favorite number, Joe69.
Yeah, and I do want to say this too, by the way. The lesson to be learned here is because I lost my ass last week with Virginia is not prohibiting me. It's got absolutely no effect with what I think of them this week against Duke. So, lesson learned here. Do not let one loss or one bad beat bother you or affect the way you look at the following matchup with that particular team.
Let's talk Georgia Tech versus Miami in your backyard there. Miami Gardens, Hard Rock Stadium. 18 now they're laying. 46 the total, Joe.
Listen, it's Miami showed me a little something there. They really put it together. There was some inner fighting, some turmoil going into that Virginia game. They put it aside. They figured it out. N'Kosi Perry delivered for them. Great defensive effort, and Manny Diaz getting a little bit more involved in that defense. Obviously, there, I think you saw we all saw the results there against Virginia. Georgia Tech, They're in transition, guys. Love Jeff Collins. I love Paul Johnson, but, he's working with he's trying to do a spread offense, pro-style offense with a bunch of guys that were recruited to run the triple option. So it's going to take a little time there. And offensively, one of the worst teams in the country. So this, to me, with that win against Virginia, this is an opportunity now for Miami to get the ball rolling. They will show no mercy in this game whatsoever. I know it's 18 points, but they'll win by at least 3 touchdowns. I don't know how Georgia Tech is going to score in this game. I really don't.
Yeah, man. I wonder if they question that Paul Johnson kind of showing him the door a little bit, or he retired or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're in a long rebuild here in Atlanta. We got Clemson and Louisville to finish up the ACC trifecta to start off the Saturday card. 23.5. That's Clemson laying at Louisville. 60 in the hook, the total, Joe.
Yeah, Clemson 5-2 against the number since 2018 when they are road favorites. So it's a spot that they've had some success in. The over, though, 0-2 this season when Clemson is on the road. And Louisville, just 2-9 against the number since 2018 against conference opponents. This is interesting. Louisville is rotating quarterbacks here because their starter got hurt. They had to bring in another guy. He got hurt, and they ended up putting, them and Wake Forest must have scored 300 points last week. It was just a crazy game. They rank defensive Louisville. Thank goodness they can score. Again, new program, new head coach, new direction, defense. The offense is a strong part of that. But I can't tell you who the quarterback is going to be. That's the big question mark for them, and it's not a good time to have that question mark going up against a Clemson team who, let's face it, they're meeting soon, that group of people deciding, and Clemson is definitely going to want style points. They're going to want some brownie points. They are going to put their foot on Louisville in this game. It won't even be close.
Joe, next one up, one that I'm very interested in here. Army at Georgia State, 56.5 the total. This one in the old Braves Stadium there, Turner Field. I believe it's called Georgia State Field now. Not really sure. They're in Atlanta. 6.5. Army laying on the road here. I kind of like Army, man. I think Georgia State's a little up against it. I know they're a pretty improved team in the Sun Belt, but this is a different ass trying to stop this option for 60 minutes. So yeah. I think Georgia State's up against it. I'd lay the 6 and a hook with Army. How do you feel?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. And when it comes to the service academies, I'm always looking at totals because that's where I find the value, especially with a team like Army who does nothing but to run the ball really, really well at the triple option. But the interesting part is that's what Georgia State does too. Both of these teams love to run the ball, and when you run the ball, that usually means we're chewing up a lot of clock, and we're going to get some lower scoring games. And by the way, the Panthers, one of the worst scoring defenses this season. Army plays at a crawl. That's what they do. That's what they've always done here. And I think that's why 4 out of the last 6 games have hit the under for Army. And I look for this game to be absolutely no different, especially with Georgia State. They're not going to air it out, guys. They're going to try to keep Army on the sideline. They're going to try to grind it out themselves. I'm looking at the under in this game.
All right, Joe, we got 2 games left here. Heading to Maction, Buffalo at Acker. Buffalo laying 17 and a hook, 48 the total against the Zips.
One of the best 1-2 punches in the backfield is what Buffalo has there. 2 of the better running backs, Jared Patterson, Kevin Marks. I think they've combined for close to 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns this season. The Akron Zips, let's just leave it at that. They don't have much hope on the offensive side of the ball to do anything here, especially on the ground. They're only averaging 58 rushing yards per game. Defensively, they're not going to be able to stop that 1-2 punch. I think Buffalo is not only going to be able to run the ball, they're going to have success in the air. They are going to come ready to play here. They're coming out of a bye week. Buffalo's going to win big against Akron.
Joe, we got 1 game left here, but guys, want to remind you of the coupon code for this segment's podcast, Joe69 at checkout. Will give you his 1 week, 7-day all access for just $69, less than $10 a day. Check it out at sportsmemo.com. He's hitting 73% the last week, 58% in college football year to date. Coupon code Joe69 at checkout for his 7-day all access package. Let's finish it up here in the Big Ten. 327-328 Indiana at Maryland. We got 5.5. That's the Hoosiers laying on the road. 59 the total in College Park.
Yeah, Maryland's not had a lot of success there recently. They were doing really good, then all of a sudden they ended up getting blanked, and then they've had a hard time trying to get it back together. Meanwhile, Indiana is patting themselves on the back there for that great win against Rutgers. Let's not pat yourself on the back there at all. To me, I love Maryland in this spot, getting 5.5 points. I think they're a better offensive team. I think they're close, and I certainly think they have enough firepower to be able to stick it to Indiana at home here. I think they're the better team. I think they're going to go ahead and show it, and I think offensively, I don't think Indiana's going to be able to keep pace. So give me the 5 points. I'm all over Maryland in this game.
Great stuff, as always, from Joe Raineri, our leadoff hitter. Joe, let the people know where they can find you on Twitter, and any closing thoughts here.
At Joe Raineri, guys, hit me up on Twitter. Follow me there. Of course, sportsmemo.com. It's going to be a fun week here. Still a lot of teams trying to separate each other, so it's going to be one hell of a Saturday, guys.
Absolutely. And we'll be back in a couple hours with Mid-Major Matt breaking down the second portion of the college football card. Guys, until we talk next, best of luck with your bets.